Hey,
Hello, you are going to use the first 2 minutes explaining your own journey, and even though I think it's interesting, I think your arguments are more relevant, so I'm going to skip the first 2 minutes.
so here it is. I currently identify myself as a feminist because I believe that equality is very, very important and something we do not have at this current time in this world in this day and age.
When you say equality, do you mean equal opportunity or equal outcome? If you mean equal opportunity, then I am with you, and most anti feminists are also with you. But many feminists, when they say equality, they mean equal outcome, like 50-50 men and women in leaderboards and 50-50 in the earnings of men and women. The problem with this is that if you agree that there are at least some differences between men and women in general, if you give them equal opportunity, they will make different choices, so the outcome will not be 50-50.
For example, white males have done some pretty fucked up shit in the past. Just look at the British Empire or the way that America began to exist and slavery as a whole.
How things were in the past is not relevant when discussing inequality in the present. And also, nearly everyone had slaves in the past. Nearly every people waged war for conquest. You can't blame the British specifically. And actually, the British were the ones who abolished slavery. So if there's anyone we shouldn't blame for slavery, it's the British. Also, I do not see how this is related to gender.
It's basically meant that we've had a big advantage in life. And that's probably why the word privilege and white privilege has been thrown around a lot these recent years. Males, as a whole, do have a benefit of being male compared to being female. And, in the grand scale of things, males have had an easier go of life. I mean, for example, periods, they sound terrible. Imagine like a cramp in your stomach, like kind of similar to how when you have maybe diarrhea or you want to vomit, but kind of more direct and worse than that. And they have to deal with that every month for multiple days.
Yes, men as a whole do get some privilege, like not having to give birth. And you can also say that men in general get some privileges in some areas just for being men. But it would also go the other way. You would also have things women get just for being women. And even if it's true that men have a better life and men are treated better just for being men in general, then you can't put it on individuals. For example, a poor white man in America wouldn't have less privilege than Hillary Clinton.
That's terrible, but that's not really the focus of what I'm talking about, and it's not something we can really deal with or impact right now. As far as I'm aware, we can't stop periods. But what about the fact that a male and female can do the exact same job, and for, oh my god, so long, females have been paid less?
You are referring to the gender wage gap. While it would be true to say that men on average earn a lot more than women on average, this is not due to discrimination. When you take the gender wage gap and you put all the known factors into the equation, factors like how women are taking educations that leads to less paying jobs, and how women are not working as much full time, and all of the other factors, you are left with somewhere between 8 to 4% difference in what men earn and what women earn. We do not know the cause of these 8 to 4%. Some of it is going to be because of some additional factors that we are now unaware of. Some of it is going to be because women are not as aggressive when discussing wages with their boss. And yes, some of it is probably due to discrimination, but we have no reason to think that a big part of it is due to discrimination.
That's silly. That's something that just shouldn't exist.
If you want equal opportunity, this should exist. Men and women are different to some degree, and therefore you're going to see a difference in the outcome of their choices to some degree.
That's what I mean specifically when I say men have had a bit of an easier time, for example. And so feminism has had a big part in trying to deal with these types of problems, to make it so women and men are on the same level playing field.
Feminists are fighting for affirmative action through gender quotas. Gender quotas gives people more or less opportunity based on their gender. Feminists are not fighting for an equal playing field.
And it's not about bringing men down, like, here's the woman's level, here's the man's level, you know, women should be paid equally. Just as an example, women should be paid equally. And it's not about going, okay, well then males are paid less. It's about, if a man is paid so much, then the woman should be paid so much if they do the same thing. It's really simple, in my eyes, anyway, that example.
Viewing men as a group and women as a group is one of the biggest problems with feminism. I do not think feminists want to tear down men as a group, but by doing what in their mind is raising women as a group, they are going to do injustices towards individual men. An example of this is gender quotas, where individual competent men are denied jobs because a less competent female also applied to the job. Also, women are not paid less because they are women, so what you're saying is not true.
Again, that's super specific, just one thing. There's so much more to it, and there's so much to discuss, and I'm trying to focus on the main aspects of feminism. These days, feminism is actually a lot more about equality for all, not just trying to help women, but men too.
If feminists wanted to help men too, why do they hate the men's rights activists? I'm not an MRA, but if feminists want equality, they shouldn't hate them.
There are a lot of men's issues in the world, and I couldn't possibly think of all of them, I'm sure. But some simple things do spring to mind, like men being unable to wear makeup without receiving hate from someone, or men being unable to cry without being seen as weak or wimpy by someone.
If someone cries for a good reason, I do not think anyone would care. But if you cry over nothing, I think I could rightfully call you both weak and wimpy. I think this goes for both genders. Under the makeup, would people hate a man who used makeup? People in my environment definitely wouldn't, but things might be different in the rest of the West.
You know, these are some very basic issues, and they've actually been improving, and in part, we do have feminism to thank for that. On a way more serious note, men are beaten and men are raped, just like women are. And both of these things shouldn't happen to anyone irrelevant of gender. But now that the main idea is established and I put that across, I just wanted to bring up religion briefly. Originally, it was a hugely helpful thing in the study of medicine and learning as a whole. How religion was something to follow so people were good. You know, you had rules and a reason to be a good person because you'd go to hell, as an example, to do with Christianity there. But then also religion has been a negative thing in many ways. It stopped learning in many ways as well. An easy example is in some places, quite a while ago, it was seen as an act against God to perform autopsies. You know, the purpose of an autopsy back then, they were trying to understand more about the human body, how it works, and that could greatly improve our understanding of how to deal with illnesses. And some religions were hugely against this, again, an act against God, just as an example. So why did I even bring that up? Well, feminism has been a huge step forward for humanity in my eyes over the last little while, and it still is in many ways. But a big question, what has it done recently?
Recently, feminism has achieved its goals and is now pushing in a negative direction. No one can prove empirically that we have a significant problem with inequality, so feminism is redundant.
You know, and it's not really about that in my eyes. At the end of the day, there's always going to be positive and negatives to everything. And if they manage to achieve something positive in the grand scheme of things, then that is great. That's a good thing. But I do accept we have to look out for when maybe it stops progressing as well. Just as religion helped learning and medicine, it also hindered it at times. For example, there's people out there, and there's always going to be people out there who claim they are a feminist. And while they claim they are a feminist, they act in a misogynistic or misandric way. And the internet might call these type of people men haters or like a crazy feminist, you know, extremists, things like that, whatever. I think in all walks of life, there is always going to be good and bad. And in feminism, I'm absolutely certain there are many negatives to go with the good points of feminism. I'm simply not here to discuss all of the bad and good points that feminism has done. I just wanted to make this video to express and put across my feelings on feminism and this topic. And those feelings are that humans should be equal.
I think men and women are equal in our society.
I know it's a very difficult thing to achieve and maybe even possible, but it's worth it to try, to simply accept people for who they are. If it bothers you, for example, that someone is transgender or gay or straight, whatever sexuality or gender they might be, accept that you have an issue with that thing and accept that it bothers you. And then never interact with the people who, for example, if you have an issue with a transgender person, just move on. You know, it's better to not interact with that person that you have an issue with, which is entirely on you, than to actively hate them and maybe even attack them in a way that might make their life worse.
I completely agree. If you have a problem with who someone are or what someone does, then as long as it's not affecting you, that's your problem.
We all have one life at the end of the day, and that life has a limited amount of time. Why waste it hating people and being filled with hate? Feminism has too many sides and goals and negatives to discuss and cover in one video, and I'm not educated enough to do that.
So you're a feminist who admits that there are negative sides of feminism. You admit that you're not educated enough on a topic when you don't think you're educated enough on a topic. You're clearly not bigoted against people who disagree with you, and it seems like you want to treat people as who they are and not as their gender. If most feminists were like you, I don't think I would have a big problem with feminism.
I am very much dreading the comments on this because I know there are going to be people who are going to argue. There might be discussions, there might be debates in the comments, sure. But they're internet comments and it's on YouTube. It's probably going to devolve into hate, arguments, and just insulting each other. I am dreading that aspect of this video that's probably going to happen. But despite that, I think it's a video I needed to make. At the core of it all, while I believe feminism is still about equality, then I'm going to consider myself a feminist. Thanks for listening. I hope maybe I had some sort of positive impact on this topic or on someone and their opinion. I'll see you guys next time where we're back to gaming. Sorry.